Hello, 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 everybody. How are you today? Welcome back. If you saw my last few videos, I'm going to jump right into it today. And I thought I'd go over some of the basic ideas on perspective on drawing this nifty car that I took a cool picture of, I think, a couple of weeks ago. I was at my niece's birthday party, and this vehicle was parked right outside there, and it was all about oohs and ahs looking at this car. I was so like, wow. And on top of that, the picture itself, there's a sort of I just can't help it, but this sort of a feeling of a little kind of makes me think of Batman, the ears of Batman a little bit. So I thought it would be cool to try to draw this. So I'm going to go ahead and start right away here. The first thing I'm going to think about, though, is as far as perspective is concerned with this, is that I want to think about what's closest to me. And I always tell my students that imagine this picture, imagine that was a sort of a field of glass, and that's your picture plane. So the field of glass, if I were to make that field of glass floating in the air, which is impossible, go towards the car, where would it hit first? What part of the car gets hit first? And it looks like it's going to be right here. So that's where I'm going to start with drawing this kind of a box. So I'm going to start, I think it's, and I like the idea of there's a gesture. And by the way, I'm using a regular old big ballpoint pen, partly because I actually kind of like the sound of it. I know it's hard to I don't know if the mic will pick that up, but I kind of like the sound of it. I don't know why. I actually like the smell of it, believe it or not, of this. It's weird things that us artists kind of want to work with, but that's my criteria. I like the sound, and I like the smell of this ballpoint pen. And I like playing with it because it's also permanent. And so I have to really put my money where my mouth is, right? That I have to try to get this right, and I'm gonna get rid of some of these worrisome ideas of like trying to get it perfect. I know it's not gonna be perfect, and I don't care. I want to go after a feeling that's here, and that feeling lives elsewhere from the image. It lives in another place. It's not embedded in the image. I mean, there's something kind of cool here in the image itself, but that's still up to the artist, or if you listen to my last video, sort of the daemon that you have inside you, this spirit, this muse that wants to see this. Anyway, you'll see what I mean now. So I'm going to just draw that box, and that's what's closest to me. Then it goes away like that. Like that, and then that's the front of the car. It's kind of doing that. It's pretty long here. Then it goes shoots back into space this way, and it looks like it's all going toward a line that is indicating how tall I am, and where I'm standing with my iPhone when I took this picture. And it's on this line right here. That's called your horizon line. And believe me, you'll be able to find some really good videos talking about these kind of things. Because I'm not really talking about the ins and outs of perspective. I'm giving you sort of a general overview. Once I see where we're going to get, we need more of that idea in there, I'll talk more about it. Okay, so here I go. I start to sketch in the general idea where things are, and then the shadow shape. That's that swash. I guess I'm gonna say swashbuckling feel of that shadow, which it kind of is to me. This is Batman. This should have been Batman's car. In fact, what is Batman's car in the old TV show? In the man. Oh, somebody write that for me in the comments. I forgot if you're a fan of those shows from the 1960s of Batman. If you didn't know that they exist, immediately go look for them. We look at them today. I think for sure it was. I think it's more of a sitcom in many ways. I don't know if some of you who know what I'm talking about with the with those TV shows, the Batman TV shows. But it felt very sitcom-y, right? Like it was a comedy, even though they didn't have the laugh tracks, but there was a comedy. All right, so here I am, and I'm drawing. You know, even though it's a ballpoint pen, I can still draw fairly light because, like I said, I know I'm going to make a ton of mistakes here. So why make really aggressive, strong stakes? I'm just going to kind of, you know, this line might have to move later. So I'm going to put things where I think they are generally. And as I begin to add more and more details, I'll be able to massage it in or put it in where it's supposed to be. I want to keep this pretty graphic as well. In other words, simplified, with the darks are just going to get lost in certain areas. And I don't mind it because I feel like I want to add a little bit of the background. So this whole darkness right here, I want to treat it as a sort of one shape here. And there's my ums there. So Batman, all the things that inspire us sometimes as artists, sometimes can be a simple thing like, in this case, it's Batman. There's a cool factor to this car. I mean, I'm even thinking along the terms of like, I even think Quentin Tarantino might think this car would be cool because we've seen him use these cars in some of the movies, right? This era where these cars were popular. This is a Mercury Cougar. I believe it's a 69-ish. If not, it's probably right close to it. Again, I don't mind if you guys know. Please let me know. You know, sometimes we think it'd be cool as an artist that I would know everything about the thing that I'm drawing, where I'm really just responding to how cool the damn thing looks to me. I wish I knew more. I just know the feeling that I get when I look at this. And it's, you know, with my age, and I wasn't alive in 1969, but I've seen these cars in person. Well, we see one right here. But I'm saying when it was popular, right? When they were just rolling around up where I'm from in New Jersey, rolling around, and we'd see them often. Didn't care too much about its wow factor per se, especially, you know, thinking in terms of if they're going to be seen, you know, what, 50 years from when these cars were made. I don't think we thought that. Not everybody did anyway. So I'm putting in some details, but it's still open to change. These lines all open to change here. And there's that swoosh. There's like, even drawing, I feel like I want to do this sort of little swooshy sound. I think it maybe goes up more like that. And there's that sound, that little bumpy sound, this little bright sound in this pen. And that smell, oh man, I know you can't smell it, but some of you, I think, will know what I mean when it comes to this pen. It's a simple Bic. You know, aging myself here, a lot of us used this pen growing up, and I love that it's still around. radio. Listen to the radio there. Okay. So there's a little bit of that perspective that I was talking about. I'm also going in with this idea of gesture. Gesture just meaning that I want to capture the spirit of the thing. I'm not necessarily trying to get it perfect right now, but sort of the spirit of the idea. You know, some years ago I was hired at a architecture firm. I'll probably post some of the drawings. I can't post all the drawings that I did in that firm, but it was a sort of surprise when I was approached to go work for them, it was pretty cool. I had a studio in Miami Beach, and I had this person come in and ask, they say, have you ever drawn buildings? Have you ever drawn houses? And I'm like, I mean, yeah, you know, I definitely have, you know, but not necessarily for pay in some ways. I mean, some of my paintings have these things, but I'm just really following the idea of perspective here. I'm also, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, I'm using a lot of straight lines. Light lines with straight lines will appear curved if they need to appear curved. Like this right here, these are just two straight lines put together. But from far away, it does feel more like it's a curve. And there's a reason for that, because straight lines are easier to understand than curved lines. Curved lines are hard to reproduce. So I don't try to necessarily reproduce curved lines. Not necessarily. You could a little bit, but I don't do that much because I have a better chance of success when I see the angles where this curve turns, because you can see the ends of the curve, right? That's when it turns away from you. Anyway, so I was this gentleman came in and asked me, you ever draw, you know, buildings and houses? And I'm like, no, not necessarily. You know, he's like, oh, okay. And you know, that was that, because this was a studio that was open to the public, and people come in all the time, and we have conversations, and actually I missed that kind of a lot. It was a really beautiful, awesome location in Miami Beach. And again, if you are familiar and if you've been to Miami Beach, there's a pretty bustling shopping road called Lincoln Road. And we had studio spaces there. It was fantastic. I mean, too bad that building sold for a lot of money, and they weren't going to say no to that money so that they could expand their program. But unfortunately, they're not expanding it right then and there, right in that spot, which was really cool, because we had sort of, you would say, the after dinner vacationing groups walking by, and you know, they're much more relaxed and, you know, looking to be, you know, on a vacation and meandering around. And us artists would hang out in there, and we would draw and paint, and I loved it. I totally loved it. I think I love being productive, and that was a place where it was so much fun to be productive. But what often happened in that awesome space was lots of conversations with strangers. It was really, really, really cool to meet all sorts of people. And even to this day, I'm still in touch with many of those people, which was really, really cool. But yeah, this is one of those these run-ins where someone came in and they asked those, you know, looking around at my work, and they were like, yeah, have you ever done that? And I'm like, yes, no, but not necessarily for pay. And you know, lo and behold, not that long later, they get a phone call. It was like, hey, would you like to come work for us? And I was like, what? Yes, maybe. Let's see. I'm not sure if I want that. And I was invited in, and we had a cool interview, and they were like, yeah, I think it would be cool. And this is why I'm telling you the whole story here, is that I was aware of a study that was done some years ago on, the most beautiful face, a computer program. I forget. It was these, I think, Russian scientists that may have done it, or some Russian artists. I'm not remembering the details a lot, but it may be in the notes, in the comments. I'll remember to put some of this. But it's a study talking about creating the most beautiful face, a male face, a female face. Like what would be considered the most beautiful? Here I am drawing the shapes of shadows, by the way. That's what we're seeing here. What would be considered the most beautiful face? Can we create the most beautiful face based on, I think it was a large, very expansive questionnaire across many cultures. So the idea was like, can we try to figure out what's the most beautiful face across the culture so that it's become somewhat universal. And it would be a computer simulation of after the questionnaire and all the data was gathered, a computer would spit out the most beautiful face, most beautiful male face, and most beautiful female face. And what wound up happening when that happened was that there was a sort of an idea of like, yeah, we looked at it as a public, and we were like, okay, like, but that was it. That was like, meh, it was okay. And it's not because the face wasn't beautiful. It certainly was, and I'm sure you could find this. This study may have even been done a few times, but you could look for it. And we look at the face, and it's just like, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. But notice how I'm even saying that. It's just, yeah, it's okay. There was something to be said for things that are quote unquote, I'm not going to say ugly, but quote unquote different, not standard, or things that are just a little bit off. Maybe the nose is off a little bit, maybe I don't know, an eye or something, whatever. And I certainly remember I had a little crush on, speaking of Quentin Tarantino, I had a little crush on Maria de Medeiros, actor. She was in Pulp Fiction, also Henry and June, and if we look at her, I don't think she fits the sort of idea of a standard beauty per se, but sort of a there was something quirky and fun and that looked kind of like, I don't know. It was just, there was something about her that I just wanted to keep looking at, you know. And I mean, her eyes looked, she's never going to watch this anyway, so, but her eyes looked a little bit further apart than usual, which if you were to take a ruler or a way to measure, it certainly was not. It's totally fine, but it's just certain proportions looked a certain way that gave that appearance. And I think of two of other movie characters that were very good looking, but not that standard what we think would be the most beautiful per se, if that makes sense. But anyway, I go back to this idea of being hired at this architecture firm in Miami, and the gentleman that hired me was like, hey, you know, like, our clients will look at our snazzy design, Photoshop or computer generated renderings of what we're going to do for them. And they responded in that sort of manner of like, yeah, okay, cool, I'm going to get that, cool. Now we're talking millions and millions of dollars here. So I think the firm had a cool idea, and that they wanted to experiment with saying, well, we don't want the client to respond with, yeah, sure, cool. They wanted something else. They wanted that sort of visceral reaction. And the experiment was, because I was hired temporary, it was a temporary job, by the way. I don't know if I would be able to handle that for years, even though it was a lot of fun. But and they were like, we want to experiment. We want to try having this drawn by living, breathing artists that are working on traditional media like paper and paint and these things. And the budget was amazing. Like they're like, you could buy whatever you want. You use whatever materials you want to create this. So it was my first time doing that, and I was like, yo, this sounds cool. I definitely want to try this, And the pay was pretty damn good. The commute, not so much, but the pay was great. And so I worked for them, and worked for a couple of divisions. It was an interior design division, which was really, 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 I can't emphasize this more, really good to improve my drawing even more. Because I would say that, I knew how to draw, but oh my gosh, when you have interior designers coming at you and saying, hey, I love that you drew the couch on the right-hand side, but what would it look like if it was on the left-hand side? So that means we'd have to put some tracing paper over it, draw the entire thing that I drew, retrace it, and then move a couch, or even change colors as well, So there was thousands of edits that you just have to do, and it really kind of made me very comfortable in drawing. And it's not that I wasn't already, because I was. It's just because at that point too, I have to introduce myself. Hello, I am a teacher. I have been a college professor for 14 years, and now I am teaching at another place that is no longer college. I'm getting some of the younger kids and giving them some of this information. But at the time, I have been teaching, and I have been very comfortable. I do come from a school of thought where you shouldn't be a teacher unless you really know what you're doing. And oh boy, am I very opinionated on that subject. That could be a whole other YouTube channel, a whole other can of worms for sure, because I have seen, unfortunately, I don't want to make it a negative thing, but yeah, I believe that you should be teaching. You should know what you're doing. So I've been a full-time artist, and so as I taught in the art programs, I wanted to make sure that I know what's happening in the art world and what the students should expect, so that they know what to do when it's as they're developing their skills to become artists. And I took that as a point of pride. I enjoyed doing that work. But now one of the trends that I notice how I meander everywhere. Not only in my drawing, but even my conversation here, even my talking, right? Isn't that? I apologize in advance, but I don't apologize, because that's how my brain is working right now in order for me to get this work done. And I even talk about that with students and here with you, that I think it's a good thing that part of my brain is occupied in having to talk to you. Because if I get too stuck and quiet in this drawing, believe you me, folks, and it may happen to you, it may have already happened to you, or maybe you don't know what it's called, but what's happening is that you start to doubt. You start to doubt. Your analytical brain is just going to start doubting, like, hey, are you sure that's supposed to be there? No, that's not supposed to be there. Maybe this should be over there. Oh, why are you doing this? And all kinds of doubts, like why are you doing a YouTube channel? Like, you have, no one's going to look. There's millions and millions of YouTube channels, and you have those kind of doubts all the time, well, a little meta there, right? But don't worry, like I said in my last video, I know I'm meandering and talking all over the place, but I do know what I'm talking about here, and I know that I'll get back to all the things that I started in our conversation. But So going back to that, working for the architecture firm and really drawing a lot, like, oh my goodness, like that was just like, I remember feeling the sort of even physical pain of the amount of drawing that I would do. My shoulders were hurt, my hand would cramp, you know. But man, oh man, folks, that was such great training. I really, really, really appreciate my time with that company. It was so cool. Anyway, going back to that study and saying, well, we weren't too impressed with the most beautiful female face or the most beautiful male face. We want something to be kind of off, something to be a little bit more, what's that word? I mean, I'm sure you guys could come up with cool words about that. Like, there's a sort of sense of, I can't say wrongness, but in a way that is what I am saying. There's something off, something wrong. And so drawing and rendering a lot of these images in the firm, they were meant to be kind of, again, I don't want to say wrong, they just weren't completely perfect. And the idea was, the idea is exactly that. It's this sort of sense of like, there's a hand rendering feel, or hand, like there's a more of a personal touch. And again, I love to talk about this because I've said this in the last video. I had gone to a show at the Metropolitan Museum of Art many years ago, 1990s or something, and it was these little terracotta figurines of the bigger Roman and Greek sculptures, and they were fantastic. And I think what really made them fantastic is that feel that it was handmade. It wasn't like completely finished. There was this really cool like factor, the wow factor that I'm talking about, right? Here I am, I'm putting in some value only to kind of make separate the light and the dark here, just some value, not being completely perfect, right? Because that's the whole theme here. But yeah, like, you know, I wound up working there for almost a year and drawing so freaking much that I am so thankful for that. You know, I've heard it said, like, when you get a job, try to get a job that you can learn from, like a skill that you want to learn. Yeah, that's easier said than done, because, you know, as we're young, we also just kind of want a job, period. But, you know, even in what do we call it, a job, you can still learn. A lot of things. Like, I certainly learned how to talk with adults when I was young. I had a few jobs where I had to talk with adults, you know, and it was cool. You learn stuff. And the job that I'm talking about with the drawing, same thing. I have no fear whatsoever in starting a drawing now. If anything, kind of the idea here is that I'm very comfortable in making mistakes. Very comfortable in making mistakes. It's totally fine. And in that comfort, the irony, right, is in that comfort, many times you'll get exactly what you wanted in the first place, right? You'll be able to draw things better. There. So as you hear me slow down my talking, is because I'm spending some time observing, looking, right? Because in the beginning it was this sort of swashbuckly kind of way of putting lines down, but notice now I'm starting to put in some details, and I have to slow down a little bit, just a little bit, here, there, and make space to make sure that I get some of the things that I think are cool in there. And again, these are just kind of preliminary values that I'm putting down, because things might change, things might move. I might have something in the wrong spot right now and I don't realize it right now. Right? So I want to give myself that opportunity to change it if I have to, and if I want to, really. That's another part of it, if I want to, because maybe it looks kind of cool with the quote-unquote mistakes, right? So this tire is here. Yeah, I think it's okay there. So I'm just going to give it a quick hatch. I'm just doing straight hatches going down. I might leave it like that. I'm not sure. I like it. I kind of like the way it looks right now, but I'm not sure. We'll see. Let's keep adding some of the structure. So that is there. That's going to be interesting. All these right here, this grill. You see all that grill? That's going to be interesting to do. Oh well. Not afraid, right? Not afraid, because of really the experience. I can't emphasize that enough. It's a cliche now. Like, you should, if you want to be an artist, you should have a sketchbook with you at all times. At all times. I have a friend whom I'll mention, who is the epitome of exactly that. Like, he is such a good artist. He has a sketchbook with him all the time. In fact, ever since I met him, we were in art school together. Ever since I met him, I don't think I've ever seen him once, and this is quite a few years after art school now. I don't think I've ever seen him without a sketchbook. He is constantly drawing, and his work shows. He's amazing. I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning him, but Chris Misi, go look him up. Comic book caricature artist. He's just fantastic, and I'm sure I'll add a link to his site somewhere on this, maybe even while I'm talking here. So I'm here, and I'm trying to figure out if I should change the hatch, because here there's a flat surface, and I kind of like the look of just keeping it straight. And I'm going to experiment to see what that looks like. So I'm going to just keep it straight for now. Straight as in vertical. Sorry, I didn't mean to say just straight, because horizontal lines can be straight too, right? So I am going to just keep it straight, verticals. See, I don't know. See if I like it within these details. And you can tell now things are starting to form. And I'm still just putting. If this was a different material, like a watercolor, which I wonder if should I put some watercolor in here? I don't know. Maybe. I'm letting you in my thinking, folks. Right? Letting you in on these thoughts. If this was watercolor, or if this was even a painting, a lot of these values would have been taken care of long ago with a brush. It would have been a quick wash to get the values down. But I'm just using a pen, and I don't mind using the pen, although it's a little bit slower than a brush. But I like to kind of, believe it or not, try to be as fast as possible with this. I think I've developed that. So I'm looking here. If I go straight down, just to the left. Down and to the left. Yeah, it's okay. It's in an okay spot. And maybe the distance is, no, that's fine. I think that's fine. So then I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to hatch. But I try to be fast. What is this? Should I put in this cougar-y thing? What does it say? Beware cougar. I don't know if I'm going to put some words. You could, if you want to. I don't know if I'm going to do that. Let's see. Let's see what happens. So all this, it's dark things here. And does this tell a story, part of the story? These little details, if they're part of the story of what I'm trying to convey here, I'll put it in. If not, I'll just ignore some of these things. Like, I don't know if I need mark that I just did. Even though this is a different value, it's still in the dark, so all this gets in the shade. And it's still pretty light. And let's see, we're what? 35 minutes in. Okay. 35 minutes in, and we'll do this. And so I'm going to go ahead. All this is still all in the dark here. Here, and this is dark. I'll go back in a little while, maybe, to add more darkness inside here. If maybe I'll make it a little bit more, I think maybe more realistic, or more rendered. That's the word. But even here, I'm just going to kind of leave some space for the light areas, which is right around there. It's my big head way here. No. Okay. Yeah, so here I go there. And I'm still using pretty straight, liney kind of lines. There's nothing against using more curvy, much more gestural lines. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just the way I'm approaching this particular drawing. Sometimes I would be a little bit more swashbuckly, more curvy, and I may still do that. But let's see. Here I'm building some of that part of the grill there. I don't know. I'm kind of liking the straight line. Let's see. Maybe there's some match it up here with the, because like I said, I want to kind of explore the outside as well, but not too much. So let's see. Even now, I'm starting to change the way I grip the pen to maximize this particular pen stroke. Yeah, it's working. Now I'm just getting a little darker. It also helps me just to see. Can I see it a little clearer? Let's go up here and let's make this dark and this dark. Yeah, see? Yeah. I wonder if this pen's going to survive all this. Let's see. Straight lines, straight lines, straight lines. Couple of cool things going on back there. Little leaves. Do I need it? Do I want it? Can I ask questions? Now this whole thing is dark as well. Straight lines. It feels weird because I want to draw it this way. I do. But I want to stick to a parameter that I give myself, like we talked about. I've talked about with drawing everything with one line. That's the rule, so I got to stick to it. So I wonder, I'm just going to keep using straight vertical lines to see if it works. If I can pull it off to give it a feeling that it's going across by shape alone, and then values being handled with these straight lines, vertical lines, not straight. Vertical, 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 vertical. I think it's kind of working. I think it's kind of funny. Anybody ever do that? What am I doing? Certain words just trigger a song in your head. You know what? All this shiny stuff there. You know, I think it works. Maybe I won't do too much there. Here it is. Oh, there's a really cool shine right there that I want to leave. See that one right there? I kind of like that. Let's see if I can figure out how to do that. I've done it before, and probably will show you that right there on the screen, what I'm talking about here. That's fun. All right, let's see. I have enough information here. Okay, and then I got this. Should I want to continue this across? What would it look like if I go across this way? Will I take away? Yeah, I'm thinking out loud, and I'm glad you're here to listen. I'm trying to make a design decision to see if I should continue this grove right here, maybe a portion of it, to give it more context, to give the car more context. Because right now I kind of like it like that. So then what we are forced with is we have to kind of make that decision and kind of think in terms like, what would it look like if I did that? If I brought this in, and then there's a piece of a sidewalk coming down here. I mean, do I need it? I mean, to give it context? That's a decision to make. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dare and try it. And I'm going to keep it kind of light because maybe I don't like it and I'll leave it. But for sure, I want to listen to my doubt, but not too much, you know, not too much. Listen to the doubt. If that doesn't trigger a song from the 80s, oh, I don't know what will. Not doubt, but shout, shout, let it out. All right. Cheese ball. Here we go. All right. Keep it going here. How you know that this is my lunchtime now? I am hungry. Shouldn't be, but I am. Now I'm going to press a little harder. I'm going to be a little bit more deliberate with the pen, and here's why. Because there's two things, or maybe three, maybe four. God, there's a lot of highlights here and there. I don't have to include all of them. Certainly right here is a little light, but there's a brightness here, and a brightness here that I want to shine. And the way I could do that is by making it really dark around it, and it gives it more of a context. It makes it, I hate using the word pop. It'll pop more. Right? So this is going to appear lighter the darker I get around it. And bring down some of the details that I see here. Like I said, I'm going to be a little bit more deliberate. This is kind of refreshing too. I've been really enjoying drawing with one line. And again, if you haven't seen those, most of my videos are exactly that, just drawing with the one continuous line. Giving myself that challenge. And in many ways I'm doing the same thing here, in that I'm just giving myself the challenge in that I'm just using these straight lines. straight vertical lines, right? Straight vertical lines to create the sense of value. I may abandon it. Like right here, I really want to abandon it because I want it to go that way, right? In an angle, which is what the car is doing. And these are just self-imposed rules that we put on ourselves as, at least I do as an artist. And this says Mercury on there. Should I even put that? Let's see. Mercury. When I was a kid, my stepdad had a Mercury Cougar, but not this year. He had like I wonder if I remember correctly, it was a 1986 Mercury Cougar, which I drew. It's on there. It's on my channel somewhere. That was a snazzy looking car, as this one is too. One of the things that I loved about this car, believe it or not, is that the material that it's made out of. And I know it's not necessarily the best material for a car now because crumple zones and all that good stuff. There's just something about these cars. I mean, there's a reason why these cars are still being turned over for high prices. You know, higher than I think than what they cost originally in that economy. So the owner of this car, which actually we wound up meeting, he was leaving. He was wound up being inside the establishment that we were in for my niece's. What was that? Bat mitzvah. Yes, there was a bat mitzvah. Yeah, I was like, hey, 15th. No, it's not her 15th. Bat mitzvah. Yeah, her bat mitzvah. He was actually there, and he came out, got in his car, and we were like oohing and ahhing over the car. Yeah, really cool. I think I remember he opened the hood, and we got to see the engine inside. I'm sure I got pictures of that somewhere too. Really cool. Really, really, really cool. It's like a relic. You know, we don't see these kind of things anymore. And again, why are they popular? I think I'm going to go back to that original idea that I was telling you about. That sometimes I look at cars today, and yes, they're way better, probably way better engineered than cars have ever been. They're safer for sure, better sound system, better almost everything. But you know, I've said, has anybody ever played the board game called Life? Again, I'm talking to a certain crowd here that that analog crowd, people kind of my age, right? But if you remember the cars that you would get in the game of Life, many times I feel like real cars look actually like that. It's like car, like that's what it means. It just means car, like a generic idea of car. And lots of cars have that generic thing. I'm actually a fan of that new Cybertruck. I don't know if you guys like it. Many people hate it, and that's fine. But one of the reasons I think is so cool is that it's not car. It's definitely gutsy design, and I love that. I totally love that. And I feel like when I look at these cars, even though then this Mercury Cougar is not that different from a lot of the other cars per se, but overall, as an aggregate, as a big group, these cars just seem, I don't know, man, sexier, nicer. There's something about them, that they ooze sort of, I don't know, maybe it's watching these movies growing up where, things are happening in these cars that are good, bad, action thrillers or chase scenes or even crazier things, gang. I mean, come on, look at this car. You don't think of that scene in Goodfellas, right? It's like, look at the cars they were in that movie. All right? Or again, any Quentin Tarantino movie now. So there's this feeling of these that we get, I guess, when we look at these cars that I just don't get with the cars now. You know, and again, 100% they're way better cars today. But I don't know. You know, the truck, the Cybertruck, you know, that kind of does that for me. You know, like there's something cool about it. There's a cool factor to that. Here I'm using a combination of heavy lines and light lines. And that's how we use a pen. All right. I always like saying, you know, like sneak up to accuracy. What's your hurry to be perfect right away? You know, sneak up to it. You know, and on the way there, maybe stop. You know, maybe stop. Don't make it perfect. Maybe, you know, give it that sense of what am I trying to say? It's kind of like I've said the story many times before. The idea of bringing a crossword puzzle. If I were to show you a completed crossword puzzle, like the most that I can get out of you looking at that is like, oh yeah, well, smart guy, cool. You know words and letters, great. You know, that's cool, sure. But what if I came in and I gave you a partially completed crossword puzzle? Then now it's interactive. Now you're part of it. You know, you could finish it in a weird way, right? You can be part of it and go, oh, I know that. I know what that is. That's, you know, this word, you know. And drawing can be the same thing. And again, to not reiterate a million stories, but I've talked about some artwork. I would say to pick, again, who cares what it doesn't matter what I'm gonna talk badly about a certain movement of art. Again, who cares? It's just my opinion. But hyperrealism, you know, it's so cool. It really is. It's done very well. It's so. The skill level in that is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Like, I can't do that for sure. So I just want to reiterate before I say anything bad about it. Like, I can't do that. I can't. I really don't want to be honest with you. But I can't do that. That's skill on a nice, crazy level. Like, you have the patience, you have the vision to be able to put in these really photographic ideas, these photographic details of what you're looking at, and that's cool, totally cool. For me, I'm not a fan per se because I want to see the hand of the artist. I want to see, you know, more. More proof of humanity in a way. Again, not that it doesn't have it. In many ways, it doesn't. But I'm talking about specifically about hyperrealism from the 1960s. Like, we're talking as a movement. I'm not talking about a style per se. I have many students that don't quite understand what that means. So I'm thinking of hyperrealism with like a capital H, like as a movement, which is part of the kind of postmodern and even pop art, right? It was around that time. So from what I understand, some of the things that I've read about it, there could be an argument made for this point of view, which is that hyperrealism in many ways is trying to emulate a machine, the photograph, the camera. And I feel like just like Dada and postmodernism has kind of duped the viewer into believing some profoundness into that. into some of the ridiculousness of it, and also, quite frankly, I think it's insulting. I mean, come on, Dada was complete a movement that is all about making fun of the viewer, right? Making fun of the bourgeoisie in some ways. It's just like this sort of like, ha ha ha, you don't know what to think about this because you don't know how to think for yourself kind of thing. I imagine that Duchamp was saying, like, you're so whatever, so gullible or so intellectually vacant that I'm going to put a damn urinal here and you're not going to know what to do about it, and you're going to somehow think that it's great, or you're going to perpetuate that it's great as if some kind of deep thing, when in fact it's not. It's nothing. It's literally just making fun of you, the viewer. And I think that hyperrealism is not going to that far of an extent because there's actual skill involved, not with just going across the street and purchasing a urinal. But there's actual skill involved in creating the image, right? It's kind of like pushing the boundary of like, look at me, look how I can become like a dead machine, a camera, right? Look how I could copy that. Instead of using the apparatus of your eyes, now using the surrogate eye of the camera, and you're copying that, you know, like that is kind of, I don't know, these artists are saying something. They're saying like, hey, like, I don't know if it's positive or negative, but they're just saying something. They're saying like, look how close to a camera I can be. And I feel like in the time when it was coming out, when hyperrealism became a kind of a thing, late 60s, right? Late 60s. It's right during the pop art. And what was pop art doing? Same thing, right? You know, like Warhol was just kind of making fun of us in some ways, right? Like with the soup cans. I feel that's like, I don't know how you would take that, and I'm certainly open to listening and debating if you want. This idea of like, what the heck Warhol was doing with these soup cans. I don't care how many quote-unquote intellectuals are writing some deep crap about it when it's right in front of our eyes. We can, hell, I think he himself didn't know what the hell he was doing. He was, again, thank you. He should be saying, or he's not around anymore, but he should have been saying, thank you, Duchamp, for opening up this way of showing a mirror to ourselves and kind of making fun of us, which is, I guess, has to be done in some way. I'm not against that. I get it. You know, one thing that we know for sure about art is that it's like a mirror to I said mirror, right? Mirror. My wife makes fun of my Jersey accent sometimes comes out. She's like, yeah, mirror. I'm like, what? What? It's a mirror. Mirror, okay? Mirror, whatever. Let's not do a thing about it, guys. But art will always be a mirror to culture. And, you know, you gotta give it up to these artists that really kind of did that blatantly, you know, showing us who we are to ourselves. I want to join the bandwagon here and say, like, all right, enough. Can we get another art movement? Because it's enough of the same crap. If I have to go to another art gallery to see people make fun of me for whatever my choices are, like, you know, or I think the standard thing today is politics. Well, I mean, politics has always been part of art, but oh boy, I get so annoyed already with like doing crap about politics. It's like, ugh, enough. Like, really, enough. I'm not saying I'm choosing any particular party here. It's just like, let's talk about life in a different way, I guess, I think, I could be a bit of a hypocrite here. All I'm doing is like, I'm channeling my young, I don't know, 10-year-old, 8-year-old self in that I just think this car is cool. That's it. That's how deep I'm getting here. This is just a cool car. I want to draw this cool car, and that's it. That's the extent that I'm doing. It's not very deep. So if I'm going to think out loud here, maybe Duchamp's way deeper, right? Kind of, instead of saying, look how cool this is, he's kind of saying, look how stupid you are, because you have no idea how to think about a urinal in an art gallery. How you look to your friends to see what you should think. That's way deeper than, hey, cool car, man. It looks like Batman, right? So, I don't know. Maybe they have something. Maybe I could correct myself, right? I think it's possible. Possible. All right. How far am I here? We're hour and 27 minutes. That's a long video here. Will I compress it? Maybe I got to learn how to do a voiceover. That might be better. That way I don't ramble along so much. Yeah. All right. So that's happening. Let's make this a little darker here. Stay there. Make it darker still. And follow that along there. That gives these values give it structure. So, what's that? Light rain starting. It's gonna rain around here, folks. I'm in Florida. I'm in South Florida. Look at that. This is good. There's a quote unquote mistake. Which, so what? That's the way a cookie crumbles. What does that mean by mistake? What I did is that it's a little too dark here. And this is a lot lighter. I don't have that in the right spot. That little spot there. Right? So what? It is what it is. I didn't get it right this time. Oh well. One of the cool things about studying art is that we actually see, quote, mistakes that stay on the artwork, and we enjoy them. You can't tell me Cezanne, those rotting fruits were perfectly drawn. I get it. I know that. Sometimes you take liberties in changing the shape of things. I mean, Van Gogh did it quite a lot to fit a particular limit or gamut, or like I'm saying here, what if I only use straight lines? Van Gogh did the same thing. It's like, what if, my lines are following a particular armature structure that's behind everything. So that's okay, and we see them, and we definitely think of them as in certain eyes, they're like, oh, they weren't that good, or maybe they're making a mistake. But if you think of it in how they are creating these sort of games, right? This is what I'm doing here. I'm only using lines that go straight up and down. So this is the game that I'm using, so I have to, here's that word, I have to, excuse me. But to do what I'm doing, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing these I have to's. And that developed by itself. I didn't start this drawing with that thought in mind. Like, oh, I have to use straight lines. It just happened. You saw it with me. Like, it just happened. I wanted to do it like that. So in real time, when I decided to do that. Straight lines, straight lines. Now I'm a little bit more deliberate. And yeah, a little. And this is a little bit darker. I'm going to take a moment's rest to just take a look at it. Am I getting something that I like here? I think I am. I think I could be a little darker up here. And again, you don't want to be a slave to the picture. Time to shut off my phone because it's annoying me. It's right next to me. You don't want to be a slave. I'm not trying to copy every little nuance that we see here. It's like I'm trying to tell a story here. What's the story? Well, story, so I think this looked cool. There's a Batman-ish to it, like I mentioned before. And so I want to keep it cool. Daddy-o. Cool. All right. Wow, these silent moments remind me about how much I like it. These silent moments. Do you like silent moments? And like I said, I'm just pressing harder now. Closer together with these hatch marks. There's that light that I kind of wanted. And there's a light over here, so I'm going to make this a little darker. Again, just using straight lines. Straight vertical lines. Kind of like that. I kind of like that. Probably could use more. Darkness here. Because it is, after all, I'm using some of the principles of the idea that things that are close to you are more detailed. Whereas back here, it's kind of a general, see that? I'm just kind of doing general darkness here. I'm losing some shapes. Now, as you hear me shut up a little while, it's because I'm really evaluating more things. Evaluating for shapes. Okay. Now, this is going to be a doozy. These, I just can't draw each one. And my urge is to want to. All right. I'm going to make this darker, 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 darker. it's starting to show up. And the difference in values, this is much darker than the light area here, so I'm going to make sure I go a little darker. It'll give that. Yeah, what were we talking about here? Hyperrealism. Just going all over the place with my conversation. Spoke to my best friend the other day. He still lives up in Jersey, and I'm in South Florida. And I was like, check out this video that I did, And I liked the idea of like what he's saying. He's like, look, I felt like I was just hanging out with you for like an hour. That's cool. That's cool. I like that. No, it's me doing all the talking, which he's not unaccustomed to that. One of the reasons we became best friends many years ago. I grew up very close to New York City, and as I was younger, we didn't have much money, and we were like, all right, what can we do? And very often we would gather the small amount of money that we had, and we would go to a Jersey diner, and we would just talk pretty much all night long over some coffee, which back then, again, I'm old, but I'm not that old, guys. Back then, it was under $1 for a cup of coffee. Can we ever go back to something like that in a good way? It was under $1 for a cup of coffee, and we would drink coffee all night and just talk and talk and talk and talk. Oh boy, and did we talk, right? He's a great storyteller anyway, so I never minded it. It was always entertaining and informative and positive and sometimes negative, and yeah, it's a conversation amongst friends, right? Really cool. I wonder, you guys have anything like that? I think that's so important. I mean, important because I got to experience it. I still do, You have friends where you can tell them all kinds of things that you wouldn't tell other people. I think that would be the definition of a best friend in some ways, right? Right? Where you trust and talk about stuff. Alright, so I'm going to see, should I call it a day? No, I'm nowhere near done. But I am an hour and about 15 minutes in to this drawing, which is not much. This could easily be a drawing that could last me, well, I mean, you decide as an artist, I decide as the artist, how much do I want to put in. But I feel like I want to put in some more. I definitely do. But with the time allotted to me right now, it's not going to happen. But I will absolutely release this video, and I will show, I'll tell you what, we'll do part 1, part 2. Yeah, I think we could do that. Part 1, part 2. That's it. This is part 1. Part 1 of this drawing. Okay? Okay, folks? But I will add some more information here. Here. All right, make it a little bit more. Get it to a certain point. I'll leave you with that thought. With I've told students this. Like, you want to do a block in or a drawing. many times you want to try to get it to the point where it looks okay. It looks okay if you don't go back to it. I always said, like, what if there was a fire drill, or God forbid, an actual fire, right? But not in your building, and you can't get back to this for a while. Can you create a drawing and leave it at a state that it looks okay? And I think I'm at that point now. It looks okay. And like I've mentioned this again, I know I sound like a broken record, talking about Bruce Springsteen and the song Philadelphia, where I remember reading or listening to the story about him wanting to keep adding and adding and adding to the song, and certain people realize, hey, no, it sounds great right now. Don't add anymore. Don't mess it up, you know. And so this could certainly happen. But anyway, I think this is a good place to leave it for now. I want to make this a little darker, so I will. Add a couple of sound effects like I went down. And just make this a little bit darker, following the rule, my self-imposed rule of vertical lines with this cheap pen. Okay, folks, I'm going to leave it like that, and I promise we'll have a part 2. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.